As promised, we are going to continue the latest as we're watching for updates there in Arizona, as we have now entered day 13 of the missing case involving Nancy Guthrie. We do know that the FBI is now doubling its reward to $100,000 in this case as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues to approach the nearly 2-week mark. Let's now check in with Fox's Amalia Roy. She's live in Tucson, Arizona, and she's got updates on the case. But you're also going to see here on the screen, we have former Secret Service agent Bobby McDonald. We're going to speak to him in just a little bit. But starting with you, Amalia, you have those updates live there on the ground. What can you tell us about where this case now stands?
Good afternoon, Christina. That $100,000 reward is for any information that leads investigators to Nancy or that leads to them finding whoever is responsible for a disappearance. At this point, investigators are begging people to come forward with information. And this is as from that surveillance video from Nancy's house that was released a few days ago. The FBI now has a description of that person that they're looking for, also now officially calling them a suspect. The FBI says that they are looking for a male who's about 5'9", 5'10", average build, wearing an Ozark trail hiker backpack. And they did send a clearer picture of that backpack. It's primarily sold at Walmart or directly from the retailer online. Meanwhile, there's been a renewed focus around Nancy's neighborhood and house over the last few days. Yesterday, we saw a forensics tent briefly go up over Nancy's front porch. Meanwhile, sources told Fox News that at some point during the investigation, Pima County detectives collected a glove from inside Nancy's home. According to those sources, Sheriff Chris Nanos withheld that evidence from the FBI and sent that glove to a private lab in Florida instead of the FBI's lab in Quantico, Virginia. Sheriff Chris Nanos denies that claim and says that there is a good working relationship between the FBI and local law enforcement.
It's not even close to accurate. First of all, we don't hold information from anybody that's going to help us. Why would we do that? There are no egos here. This is all about finding Nancy. That's all it is. There's a great love here for Miss Guthrie, and everybody wants her back. That's the goal. That should be the goal. These little stories of infighting is ridiculous.
The Pima County Sheriff's Department is also directly asking the public within a specific 2-mile radius for any video they have of pedestrians, vehicles, traffic from January 1st all the way through February 2nd. In Tucson, Arizona, Amalia Roy, live now from Fox.
Amalia, we certainly appreciate you for giving us the very latest update on the ground. I know there's a lot of work still to be done and different pieces to put together, so we hope you'll join us again soon. And so also, as you can see there on your screen, we are going to be speaking with Bobby McDonald, the former Secret Service agent. Bobby, I'm going to take you full here, but I have to get an update from you as well. We've been speaking a lot about what's been happening there as this search is now entering yet another day. I'd like to get your input on what we just heard from Amalia about Sheriff Nanos now speaking out once again. He's decided that there aren't going to be any public press conferences at this point, but again, talking about how this investigation is now entering day 13.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned here that the way that this is being projected out there with the messaging isn't really getting in the way of the investigation. You know, one of the things that we really have not seen that we see in similar cases in the past is the family, to my knowledge, has not been seen at the podium with the law enforcement officials begging for the public's help, begging for anybody's information that they might have. I'm not sure if there's a rift going on out there. The fact that we're talking about the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office may be not playing nice in the sandbox together, I think is a little bit of a concern. The fact that this piece of evidence was sent to Florida, I believe, for analysis and not gone to the FBI lab, which is just top notch and the best in the world. A lot of things going on here that we really need to stay focused on getting information regarding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance and focusing on apprehending this individual. That's where we need to be focusing our work, our investigation, and quite frankly, it's okay to get a little lucky here with some information from the public out there.
And it is interesting because we're watching all of this unfold, and we've seen different things happening outside of the Guthrie home, as we just heard from reporter Amalia Roy talking about the tent that went up, some of those discussions about potential evidence to happening and being found there on the scene. But I want to ask you this. You touched on the piece about the FBI and Pima County working together in that relationship. Putting up this live vantage point that we have of the White House, I want to read out this update that we got from President Trump as he was departing for North Carolina earlier today. Again, because this case has so much national attention, President Trump was speaking out when he was asked by reporters at the White House why the Pima County Sheriff's Department remains in the lead on this investigation, saying this, quote, "They didn't want to let go of it, which is fine. It's up to them. It really is up to the communities. But ultimately, when the FBI got involved, I think, progress has been made." So I have to ask you here, is this customary for there to be this relationship between local and federal authorities where federal authorities don't necessarily step in, even though they might have more resources when there is a case that's happening with yet another agency that has local jurisdiction?
Yeah, Christina, I think what we have here is we haven't found with specificity a federal nexus in this crime or in this issue. If there is a federal nexus, then the FBI could come in and take over just carte blanche and handle the case from there. They are really there as the guest of the Pima County right now, which still has jurisdiction in this case and doesn't seem to want to release the overall control of the case to the FBI. They could do that if they wanted to, but they at least need to be working in concert with each other. And they need to be focusing on what needs to get done here, putting all the egos and all that other stuff that they say isn't out there, but just appears to be the optics in this case now that we're talking about that. When we're talking about that, we're not talking about getting to the end of this investigation that we should be. You and the media are helping with this by getting the word out. That's what we got to be focused on. We got to put the egos and all that other stuff aside. I think it's very telling that we haven't seen a press conference in a couple of days, which is, I think, the way that Pima County is handling the poor messaging that came out at the beginning of this case.
And while we're focused on some of those details, let's now look at what we do know. We were able to get this information. I'm going to put it up on the screen for folks who may not have seen it as we were speaking with Amalia. She had this description of the person who is now being called a suspect. This is a screenshot of the video footage that was released earlier this week by both Pima County and the FBI of this person outside of Nancy Guthrie's home wearing this full face mask with only holes for the eyes and the mouth. And they're now describing this person as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" in height, average build, wearing that black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack. We also got clear footage of the backpack as well. And so, Bobby, let's just start with this. We now officially know that it's male because I know that a lot of folks, there are internet sleuths out there doing their best to understand and possibly pin down who this person could have been and these identifying factors. There's conversation out there that they might be a woman, it might be a female. FBI and, of course, local authorities now coming out saying that this person is a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" in height. How much does this description now hopefully help the investigation move forward?
Well, we've got to key on those factors that we're able to see in that list and then take those in a direction to try to find that person. But also we take that in a direction to be able to negate people from being a suspect. Obviously, if someone is 6'7" and we're talking about them as a suspect, they're not going to be because they're not fitting that bill. I think the other focus with respect to that information is going to be the backpack. It's my understanding that that's available at local Walmarts in the area. I can tell you that Walmart has a very good and very robust security system and security department in and around all their stores. Agents and officers out there are going to be looking for any video that may be involved there, any credit card receipts, anything like that. If cash was paid for that, do we have a picture of the person paying cash for it? They are meticulously taking each nugget of evidence here and working it to the very end of its information value. It's painstaking. It takes time. It takes looking at videos frame by frame by frame by frame, and they are on it. We just need to get that one break, that one piece of information that somebody has that they may not know they have, and we've got to be able to find it.
All right, we do want to let you know this is breaking news. My producers were just shouting it from across the room, so I want to put this up on the screen, Bobby, and get your reaction to it. This is now coming to us from TMZ, saying that they just received a third email from the man claiming to know the identity of Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper. And this time, he's demanding even more money. We've heard Harvey Levin. He's been explaining, not in detail, the contents of this email, not to give up too much, because they said that they are working very closely with law enforcement, trying not to have any problems in that investigation and violate anything that law enforcement may need in order to find Nancy Guthrie. But right now, a third email. We did know at one point that person who was claiming did want 1 Bitcoin, which Harvey had extensively said at the time was worth about $67,000. But now more money, a third email. What do you make of this?
Well, two things jump right out at me, Christina. Number one, the FBI reward right now is $100,000. So if you've got information and you don't want to be bothered with going through all this other stuff through the back channels of emails and whatnot, why not provide the information, put yourself out there, take the $100,000, and let's get Nancy Guthrie back. The second thing that I think jumps out at me is that we really haven't seen, and obviously there is more to this email that we don't know at this point, but what nugget of information has this individual put out or put into his email that actually proves the fact that he's going to be able to know something? He's got to throw something out there, some proof of life, some proof of information that will be able to create a nexus from the information that he has to the information that the authorities have to be able to zero in on this individual. So again, not knowing the full contents of the email, to show credibility in his information, he's got to be putting something in there that's going to show, hey, this guy may really know what he's talking about.
And I do appreciate my producer, Julianne. She just brought me a printout of a little bit more that we know here. So I'm going to put up on the screen the live look that we have there at Nancy Guthrie's home and give a bit more about that email that TMZ just reviewed. The email says that this person is contacting TMZ because he doesn't trust law enforcement, saying that he's essentially using TMZ as an intermediary, telling authorities, you don't trust me, and I don't trust you. He suggests that the reward being doubled to $100,000 was a move designed to, quote, discredit me. And again, as they reported, the man demanded 1 Bitcoin to give up the name and location of the kidnapper. That 1 Bitcoin is currently worth now $68,000. But now he is now requesting that $100,000 FBI reward, saying here's how. He's asking for a fraction of Bitcoin worth $50,000 in return, and he will give up the information. And then he expects another $50,000 in Bitcoin. He promises not to withdraw the first $50K until the kidnapper is arrested. Once again, that's just the latest update, an article that we have from TMZ, essentially saying that they are trying to break down this $100,000 that the FBI has put out there in 2 separate installments. What are your thoughts on that? Saying that they're not going to even take this money out. Is this a normal tactic for someone who might have some information? Do we have any precedents to show us where this might lead?
Well, it's hard to tell, Christina, because, we don't really have a lot of kidnapping cases for ransom from people of notoriety anymore. We used to have those, quote unquote, in the old days. And when the ransom was to be paid, it was in a sack of $20 bills left at a mailbox somewhere. This day and age of crypto and all of the different ways to pass money around is allowing people like this individual to get creative and to try to throw out some nuggets to get us to buy off on what he's got. He's going to have to be making a case here for himself to, again, throw some information out here that's going to show that he's got credibility. I don't know that he's making a lot of friends by saying he doesn't trust law enforcement, which are the group of people who are a big part of this case now, trying to track him or the others down who are involved in this. So again, a lot going on here. Law enforcement is taking every tip, every piece of information seriously. They triage it, they work it to the very best they can, and then they place it in the hopper as to whether we're going to run with it right now full force, or do we come back to it later? So a lot of people working on this, a lot of things going on. I'm not sure law enforcement is interested in playing games with this individual. I think he's going to have to put something out there to get a credibility listing for him and the information that he's got if they're going to move forward with it.
All right, Bobby, we always appreciate your expertise when it comes to these sorts of things. I do want to ask you this, because President Trump was also asked today whether or not he thought cartels or possibly another, quote, nation state could be involved in Guthrie's disappearance. Is it possible that we're looking at someone who is not here in the United States or not based here in the United States and is trying from another country, trying to implicate or even just, create headlines here in the U.S. by taking Nancy Guthrie?
It's certainly a possibility. It's certainly something that the authorities are looking at. But cartels are business operations, if you will, and they know how to get what they want to get. So I don't think personally that the cartel is involved in this, that this has been allowed to pan out for 12 or we're almost at 14 days now. I think that this is something that's going on locally there. And hopefully we're going to get a positive outcome with this case with Mrs. Guthrie. The concern I have, though, is, again, her age, her physical capabilities, her mobility issues, lack of medication, pacemaker, all those issues. Every day that we don't get a resolution here is one day closer to, unfortunately, perhaps a negative result. I hope that's not the case.
And that's the scary truth of this all, is we're really trying to stay on top of it. All of these new details as they're now funneling in. We certainly appreciate Bobby McDonald, former Secret Service, for joining us here on Live Now from Fox to break down the very latest. Bobby, before I let you go, I wanted to just ask you anything else that we should be paying attention to in the next few hours. Again, this is a case that's we're kind of being bird fed some of these clues as they're coming out. Anything else that the public should be paying attention to? And as you're talking about that, I do want to put this up on the screen for folks at home. We're going to continue our coverage here on Live Now throughout the day. I want you to scan that QR code if you have any questions about the Nancy Guthrie case. My colleague Austin Westfall will be able to answer some of your questions a bit later on in the program. But Bobby, once again, anything else we should be really closely paying attention to in these next few hours?
Well, I think the information that your producer just handed you and we just chatted about, I think obviously that's the latest nugget of information. And if this individual has information that is credible and he's going to be smart enough to keep poking with that information to get some monetary gain from this, he's going to have to stay on that. And he's going to have to provide some proof of life. He's going to have to provide some proof of potentially who this individual is. No one's interested in playing games here. We're at the point now where this is a serious situation, more serious as the days go on, and we've got to get some answers. We're not in the business of playing around anymore. Put your money where your mouth is, and let's see what you've got.
All right. We certainly appreciate Bobby McDonald for joining us. And at home, once again, I want to leave this up for a few more seconds. If you'd like to submit any questions here to Live Now from Fox, Austin Westfall will have you covered later on this evening. Questions about this Nancy Guthrie case, you can take out your phone, scan that QR code that's in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It's going to take you to our website, www.livenowfox.com/connect. You'll go to the Ask Now tab to be able to submit your questions. And so, Bobby, thanks so much for joining us. Great that we had you on when that breaking news came in. Again, we'll continue to track these details as they come to us.
Thank you, Christina. See you next time.
All right. Wanted to make sure we were able to bring you those updates.